joining. My name is Tamara, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about our organization, and then I'll introduce myself and our main speaker for today, Nadine Cutno. So our organization is an anti-human trafficking organization that educates kids, teens, and adults on how to identify perpetrators, know if they're being recruited, and how to protect themselves from sex trafficking. We also provide services for victims, such as counseling, which is pro bono. We provide information and other resources to the homeless, and this is because 64% of homeless people, victims, reported being homeless at the time that they were recruited. So at least twice a month, we partner with Plantation SDA Church, and we go downtown and we feed the homeless and also provide them with necessary information. We also help vulnerable families to prevent them from being trafficked. So about my background, I am the president and founder of MJ Scarlett Foundation. This foundation was founded because of our daughter, Mia Joanna Scarlett, unrelated to human trafficking. She died when she was 2.5 years old, and I wanted to use this organization to honor her. I have a master's in human rights law. I'm currently doing a doctorate in the same. I'm Youth Mental Health USA certified. I'm also John Bernetti Human Trafficking Academy certified. I'm going to take a minute to introduce our main speaker, Nadine Cutno. So Nadine is a nurse and a health educator. She's also a mental health counselor. Most importantly, she is a human trafficking survivor. And I know that a lot of us have survived different things, not just, human trafficking. We're all survivors in different ways. Many years ago, Nadine promised God that if he would take her out of the dark world that she was in, that she would help others and she would live a life devoted to him. And through her life's work, and also through now being a strong advocate against human trafficking, she's keeping her promise to God. She's helping other young people to be able to speak their truth. Her journey has been one that is empowering, educated, enlightening, and most of all, encouraging to others. She's determined to show young people that they can persevere amidst life's challenges. One of her many mantras is battle, BATEL, and that she does every day. And it means to change your behavior, change your attitude, change your thinking, change your environment, and changing all that will help with changing your life. So I'm going to talk a little bit, give you a little bit of statistics about human trafficking. I know most of us know what it is, but for those that don't know, and we're also live on Facebook, I just want people to know what human trafficking is. So human trafficking is also known as modern day slavery. It is actually the largest slave trade in the history of mankind. More people are trafficked now or enslaved now than in any other time in history, and that is through human trafficking. It's also important to know that the chains of trafficking are not physical, it's mostly mental, and we'll talk about that later when we talk about I'm having a mental block when we talk about the syndrome that happens to people that are trafficked. Also, human trafficking can be defined as using force, fraud, and coercion to exploit a person for the purposes of forced labor, for debt bondage, for commercial sex, and also for organ and tissue extraction. It's important to know that human trafficking does not discriminate. It affects men, women, boys, and girls of all socioeconomic backgrounds. There are 3 elements that are necessary for human trafficking, and those are action, means, and purpose. For action, it means to recruit someone, transport them, or to obtain them. Means through force, fraud, and coercion. Purpose is for exploitation. And it's important to know that force, fraud, and coercion are not required for minors who are 18 or younger. I'm going to quickly go through a few of the statistics with you. America is #1 in the world for the origin of human trafficking, and that's according to the Department of State. Also, there are more than 40 million victims worldwide. According to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, over 1 million children are missing each year. And sadly, about a half of that is from the United States alone. Each year, about 300,000 American children are at risk for sexual exploitation, and 98% of trafficking victims are girls. About 83% of all victims are born in the United States. I know a lot of people have the misconception that it's an overseas problems and that victims are being recruited from different countries and coming into the United States, but that is all a misconception. A lot of the victims are born Americans. It's also important to know that 1 in 3 or 4 girls or 1 in 5 or 6 boys are at risk for sexual exploitation by the age of 18. About 90% of victims are controlled by their pimps. And on the internet, 1 in 7 youths receive sexual exploitation on the internet. So I know we give our children these devices, but it's important that we put parental boundaries in place so that they're protected when they're online. Another statistic is that victims are sold up to 20 times per day, 7 days per week, and traffickers make between $150,000 to $200,000 a year from selling one of their victims. The victim gets almost none of that money. Within 48 hours of running away, 1 in 3 victims are lured into sex trafficking or pornography. Locally, it's important to know that according to the Department of Children and Family, the majority of sex traffic victims in Broward County are Black girls, and they're from the general community. A lot of people also have the misconception that a lot of them are children that are in the care of the state. And yes, a lot of children in the state's care end up being victims of human trafficking, but a lot of them are just in the community. It's important to also know that Florida is number 3 in the country for the most human trafficking. It's followed by Texas and California. One of the most important statistics is that less than 1% of victims are rescued. So prevention and awareness education is very important to save lives. Having said all that, I wanted to also tell you that since we started this organization in 2019, there's a lot of changes that's been made, and human trafficking is on the lips of almost everyone. Broward County is actually doing a lot where that is concerned. In January, while we were coming back from out of the country, my son went to the bathroom and he came to me and he was so excited. He's like, "Mommy, guess what?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "In the bathroom, they have a paper stick in the bathroom door with a human trafficking awareness hotline number." And he was excited about that because 2 years ago, as a family, we partnered up with Trafficking in Our Backyard. They go around to different states wherever the Super Bowl is, and they have people put that information in restrooms, because a lot of the time when victims are in the possession of their perpetrators, the only time they're alone is when they're in a bathroom, and in there they can see the number and call for help, and they have received calls for help through that number. So he was excited that he saw that number in the bathroom, and so was I. It means that we're making changes, and people are becoming more aware. And important too, it was also on the PSD announcement, and I enjoyed hearing that. I was like, yay! They're actually making changes. Another important thing to know is that about in October of 2019, the school board passed a law, a policy that human trafficking awareness has to be taught in all schools from kindergarten to 12th grade at least once a year. I know the COVID happened, so I'm not sure how that is being done. Final thing that I'm going to tell you about Broward is that Broward County now has a RISE court, which is a special court to target trafficking in children. So this is also a very good change that is happening locally in Broward County. So I am now going to turn over to Miss Nadine, because I'm sure we all have a lot of questions that we want to ask her. So Nadine, I am going to ask you the first couple of questions, and then I'm going to open up the floor so anyone can ask questions. Oh, I also want to give a shout out to Camara. Camara is also, she's on the she's on the recording. She's also a survivor. And you can go on our website to read Kamara's story. So thank you so much, Kamara, for joining us today and for supporting Nadine, so she knows that she's speaking her through it and she's not alone.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you, Nadine. Thank you for sharing your story.
So Nadine, tell us a little bit about your background. How old were you when you were first sexually assaulted?
First, I want to say thank you for sharing your platform with me and allowing me to really have my voice and speak my voice in reference to sex trafficking. This has been a journey, and prayerfully, hopefully, my mission has been to empower other young women. So hopefully through my story, other young women will be empowered. So how old was I when I first started human trafficking? I was 14 when I first was trafficked, 14 years old. But I was sexually abused. The sexual abuse started at 10 and a half. So I was 10 and a half when I first started, when I first was sexually abused. And then the trafficking started at 14.
Okay. So I know that the perpetrator was a family member. Tell us about that, because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people have this misconception that traffickers are, they're in a white van out there and they're gonna drag you off the street, and so be afraid of the white van. So a lot of people don't know that most trafficking is familial trafficking, and also that traffickers are very patient, and sometimes they'll take years to groom you before they start trafficking you. So tell us about that.
He's not in the white van. He's in your home. You invite him into your home. And that's a lot of things that people, like you said, the misconceptions, the parents have difficulty with, because it's usually someone that the child knows, because one of the goals, like you just said, is to groom the child. We've all heard of that, grooming. My perpetrator was a family member. He was my brother's brother-in-law, so he's my sister-in-law's brother. And he groomed me over a year. And my mother would never let me stay outside the home. That was one rule of thumb. She never would let me spend a night outside of the house. And his younger sister and I were very close, we're friends. And he would always ask my mother, could I spend a night with his younger sister? He'd take us skating or take us to the movies, order pizza. And my mother would always say no. And it took him a year, a little over a year. He would ask all the time. And finally, she said yes. And the one time that she said yes, the very night, that's when the sexual abuse happened. The first night I ever spent the night outside of my house.
That's so sad, and that's why I'm so careful about my boys, because you never know. A lot of the time it's family, unfortunately.
And they're patient. They're very patient. They get up every day, and their goal is to violate. They're perpetrators. So just like some of us who love our jobs and we love what we do, they love what they do. They love their jobs, so they're good at their jobs. So they're very patient. They may try and approach a child, and I always tell kids this, they may try to approach you on social media under one name, and if you don't respond to that name, they may try another thing, and that's all they have to do all day. So this person was, patient like they are. It took, like I said, over a year and a half before my mother said yes.
Okay, I know that you were trafficked across state line. So tell us how did that happen? How did he take you away from your house to another state?
I just graduated from high school, like maybe a week after my high school graduation. And his goal was to take me out of the state so that I could work. So I didn't want to go. It was really a terrifying thing for me to think about leaving home. All the years that I'd been violated, at least I've been close to home. So one day he lured me away from the house and became very physical, knocked me out, duct taped my hands and my feet, and my mouth and put me in the back of the car and took me across state lines and brought me here to Florida.
Wow. I know that must have been very traumatic for you.
Yes.
Now, were
I
you
woke
able
up-
to contact your family?
Yes, I was able to. I talked to my mom maybe about twice while I was gone. And I talked to her. I would just call and she would answer the phone. I just wanted to hear her voice. And I can remember at the time, some people may not be able to identify with this as pay phones then. We didn't have cell phones. So I would go to the payphone and call my mom, and she would answer the phone, and I would just cry. And she would, plead with me to come home and to come, but I couldn't come home. And I would just hang the phone up. So that may have done that maybe twice while I was gone.
Okay. So I know you just hung the phone up and you cried. Did your mom say, "Where are you? Can I come and get you?" How did that conversation go?
Yeah, she would ask me to come home. She wouldn't say she would come and get me. She would say, would you please just come home? Where are you? Are you okay? Would you please just come home? And she would just hear me crying. She would say, "Stop crying, just come home, come home." And I couldn't go home, so yeah, I would just hang the phone up. And those are very emotional times because you're stuck and you feel like you are captured, you are imprisoned. And you can't do anything about it.
I know that you were badly beaten before you got away. Tell us about that incident and how you got away.
I was kidnapped by another human trafficked person, and he kidnapped me one day while my perpetrator was out of the house. And he brought me to an abandoned building where other girls were, and I was held at gunpoint for 2 days. And when he finally let me go and brought me back to the place where I was living at the time with my perpetrator became very angry because he felt like I was being deceitful and I was deceiving him. I was going to leave him and go work with this guy. And he didn't believe that I had been captured for 2 days, although I had bruises on my arms and on my feet where I had been bound. So he didn't believe that. And he proceeded to beat me. And he beat me like we always say, within an inch of your life. I was unconscious.
Wow.
I can't tell you for how long, maybe a day or so. I was unconscious in this hotel room. And the cleaning people came to clean the room. And the room was set up like a suite. And I woke up and they were standing over me. And I remember the son went into the bathroom and got a towel and put the towel over my head. And they were Vietnamese, so they were speaking in their language. And the mom was beckoning him for them to leave out of the room. And I can remember reaching for them, like, help me. And I could feel the tears rolling down the side of my face. And they left, and I must have went back out again. And when I woke up, I can remember the room was very cold. And of course, I was disoriented, didn't know where I was. And I finally got up and went to the bathroom and I took a look at my face. And I was just unrecognizable.
Wow.
So I remember searching through the suite to see if he was there, and he was not there. So I grabbed my clothes of what I could, because I didn't have anything on, and put on as much as I could. And I remember I had been saving money in a shoe, planning my escape. And I went to the shoe to get the money, and the money was gone. He had found the money, so I had no money. And I was afraid to go out of the main door because it was like a little cottage. So I climbed through the window and jumped out of the window. And I ran towards the bus station, which was down the street. It was the Greyhound bus station. And I saw one of the girls who I worked with. And I was asking her to help me to get to the bus station. So she helped me to get to the bus station. I had no shoes on my feet, didn't have time to put my shoes on. And when we got to the bus station, I went in and I was, telling them, please help me, help me, help me. And I looked around and the girl was gone. She left. And because all the way there, she was saying, "You're going to get us both killed. You're going to get us both killed." You know, she would call me little bitch. She said, "Little bitch, you know, you can't, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going home. I can't take this anymore." And I can remember going into the bus station and asking them for help. And there was a long line of people, but I ran straight to the counter. And the security came over and they escorted me to a separate room. And I was telling them I wanted to go home, but I had no money to get a ticket to go home. Can I please just call my mom? So I got my mom on the phone, and I don't remember what they worked out to get me a ticket, but there was a bus there that was going to Gulfport, Mississippi first, and then to New Orleans. So they put me on the bus, and I got on the bus, and the bus driver, closed the door, and he drove up, and he saw me sitting on the bus, and then I looked over and I saw him looking at me, and he jumped out of the car and he started banging on the door of the bus, telling him I was his little sister and I was running away and he needed to get me. And I can remember screaming to the bus driver, "If you open that door, he's going to kill me. If you open that door, he's going to kill me. Please don't open the door." And God sent me two angels. This one white guy stood up and he said, "Don't open the door." And this older lady was sitting on the other side of me. And she was screaming at him, "Don't open the door." And he didn't open the door and he drove off. And I could see him trailing behind the bus. And when the bus driver had told him, "If you don't get away from the door, I'm going to call the police." So he got back in the car and I could see him trailing behind the bus. And this guy and this lady sat with me the whole time. I had no money. I had no food, of course. And when we would stop for breaks, they would go to the bathroom with me. The lady, first break we stopped, first place they stopped, the lady took me in the bathroom and she cleaned my face up and helped me to put the rest of my clothes that I was holding on and my shoes on my feet. And then she brought me out and the guy had gotten me something to drink and some food. And they kind of just stayed with me the whole way. And this lady got off, maybe in Mobile or Gulfport, and she asked the guy to stay with me. And he said he would. And little did I know at the time, he was supposed to get off in Gulfport, but he rode all the way to New Orleans with me to make sure I got there safely. So that's how I got away from him.
That's amazing. God sent you an angel.
Oh, I had two angels.
Thank God for that. So tell us what happened when you got home.
Well, when I got home, my brother was waiting at the bus station for me. And the guy, my brother Kenneth, and the guy, went to my brother and he said, she's okay. I took care of her. And he was like, "What are you doing? You're giving everybody a heart attack, you're running away from home." And the guy was just like, look at your sister's face, look at her. He didn't say thank you to the guy. He didn't say, "I appreciate what you did." The guy held his hand out there to shake his hand. And, so he put me in a car and he brought me to my mom's house to see my mom. And I saw my mom. Of course, she was upset when she saw my face. My brother screamed and yelled at me all the way home, name calling because I'd run away from home, he felt, and I was being, this derogatory name and that derogatory name and bringing shame to the family. And when I got to my mom, she was upset, of course, and she wanted me to stay home. But they had packed my clothes and my brother put me back in the car and took me to school, to college, and dropped me off on a college campus and told me to go to college.
I know you told me that was very hard for you. Like, you came out of this trafficking situation. There was no healing period for you. You were just dropped back into the world and you were expected to pretend like nothing happened.
Exactly.
How did that work out for you?
It was traumatic because, like, what do you do with all of this? Like I said, this was my sister-in-law, Michelle. This was her brother, Leroy. my brother Daniel's wife. So I had no support from any of my siblings, my brother Kenneth, who knew where I was. There's certain people in my family who didn't know where I was. I was gone for months and no one knew. No one came to look for me. They just assumed that I had ran away from home. The goal of my mother and my brother, Daniel, and my sister-in-law, Michelle, was not to mess up their marriage. And reporting my perpetrator would cause shame to the family, would cause trouble in the family, because then they'd have to prosecute my sister-in-law's brother, and that would put a strain on the marriage. And the secret would be out. So I had no support from anyone.
Thank you all for your comments in the group, in the chat. I'm going to read some of them to Nadine, you know, so we can discuss them later. I know Marie and Joy has some wonderful comments. I quickly saw them, but we'll go back to that in a second.
Okay.
But I know, Nadine, they wanted to pretend as if it didn't happen and that you were the bad person. And I know you and I talked about, they said that you were quote unquote fast.
Fast girl. That's why I have a problem when people call young girls fast. I have an issue with that because my thing is, why are they fast? Let's talk about, every little girl wants to be a little girl. They want to play with baby dolls. They want to, you know, and at some point they want to wear makeup and, you know, explore their being grown, but it's not about being fast. And so when people call girls fast, I have an issue with that. Let's talk about why she's fast. You know, what has happened to this child to make her fast, you know? And that was my label. You know, my sister-in-law's mother, Shirley, she said that I was a fast little girl that really enticed her son and encouraged her son, you know, to do what he did. And her son, and I was 10 and a half, 11 years old, and her son was 30. You know, her son was 30 years old. So, but, you know, I was thrust into this environment. So I had to go to college, and which I knew nothing about, of course, like every young person who goes to college. I hadn't been prepped because of the university that I went to. My sister worked at the university, my sister Jean. So all of my stuff had been filled out. My financial aid was done. My housing was done. Everything was done for me. And I was expected to be normal. So my brother drops me off, and he actually kicks me out of the car in front of the mini dome where they were doing registration. And he told me to go find my sister. And I'm just bawling because I don't know what to do with myself. My face is still distorted. I still have bruises in my face. And I'm expected to go and be normal. So at some point I caught a cab that day back to the bus station, and caught, with the little money he had given me, caught the bus back home to my mom. And I remember I was laying across my mom's bed, and the phone rang, and it kept ringing and ringing. And my mom came in the room. She said, "Why aren't you answering the phone?" Well, I didn't want to answer the phone. I figured it was him, my brother. So my brother Kenneth calls my mom, and he says, "You know, I don't want you to panic, but I can't find Nadine." And she said, "I guess not. She's laying here in the bed." And he was like, "How did she get back home?" And he was like, she's like, "I don't know. She caught the bus back home." And they didn't even realize that that was like a cry. I'm not ready for this. Exactly. So my brother comes back from Baton Rouge, picks me up, curses me out, my brother Kenneth, and puts me back in the car again and takes me back to his house so that he can make sure the next day I go on campus, and I'm on campus in my dormitory, and I'm told to stay there. So I have to assume a normal life, you know, so
with no therapy or
no
anything
therapy,
to
no
get
nothing,
through the trauma
nothing.
that you just happened to you.
You know, repeated abuse. So, you know, at the risk of being vulgar, you know, you're repeatedly raped. So you're not checked out by gyno to see what's going on. So, you know, I'm on campus now, I'm living this life, and I have to act like I came from a normal environment. So when people are on campus, they're talking about their first dates. I don't know about that. They're talking about their first sexual experience. I don't know about that. You know, I can't relate those stories. So you make those stories up to try to be normal and fit in. You know, I was determined I wasn't going back. And then lo and behold, he started stalking me. My sister-in-law, Michelle, told him where I was on campus. And he started coming on campus every day, stalking me. He found out the number to my dorm, and would call the dorm and ask for me, and I would go to the phone and he would say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And finally, one day I said to him, I was walking with a friend of mine who I went to high school with, and he saw the look on my face, and he looked over and he saw his car, and he knew him from the neighborhood. And he said, don't be afraid, don't move. He said, do you want me to call my dad? You know, because my dad knew who he was. I mean, his dad knew who he was. And I said, no, I don't want to get your dad in trouble. He said, you don't have to be fearful. I'm not going to let him hurt you. And when I got back to my dorm, he called and he said, I'm going to kill him. So if you don't want your friend killed, then you need to come downstairs and get in the car with me and come back to Florida. And I told him, you know who his dad is, and that's between you and his dad if you're going to kill him. I just had enough. And I said, all I ask is that when you kill me, that you allow my mother to have my body. Because he always told me he would kill me and have my body. My mom would never have my body. And I said, all I ask is that you put me in a place where my mom can have my body and she can have closure. But I'm tired. So if you're going to kill me, then that's what's going to have to happen. And the next morning he called and he was outside of my dorm. And he says, today is the day you're going to die. And I said, I'm ready. And I remember I went, took a shower, and I put on the outfit that I wanted on. You know, I dressed myself, put my makeup on, did my fingernails. I was ready to die. And he called back again, and my suite mate saw me crying on the phone. And she took the phone from me, and she just went off, you know, and I said, you cannot talk to him like that. He's going to kill you. And she said, he's not going to kill me. And she was from Detroit. So, you know, she told him I would slice your neck from ear to ear. And she had a razor that they were carrying. And she took a razor out of her purse. And I told her he was outside of the window. And she looked out the window and saw him on the payphone in the parking lot. And she said, she showed him the knife, and she said, I will kill you and slice your neck from ear to ear. And she used some choice words in that. And to hear her talk to him like that, like I never talked to him like that, to curse him out and call him all kind of names. I never said those things to him. And he got in his car and he left. And the next time he called, I talked to him the way that she talked to him. And eventually he stopped coming. You know, when I would go home on weekends, he would, you know, sit outside my house, threaten to burn the house down, all the things that he had threatened to do that had me living in fear before. And I wasn't fearful anymore. You know, I was ready to die. If you're going to kill me, then let's get it over with. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. But I'm not going down without a fight. I already made up in my mind I needed to scratch him so that I can have his DNA under my fingernails. You know, so I really planned what would happen. And eventually he stopped.
That's awesome. And thank God for all the angels he sent your way to protect you and to give you a voice.
Yes, 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 yes.
I know Marie commented that, you know, she's had to pretend as well that everything is normal amidst you're not normal when this happens to you. But now you have a new normal that you have to go through in order to survive trauma that goes on in your life. Right. I want to digress for 1 second. And just so you can tell them about your daughter, how she experienced sexual assault from the hands of the same perpetrator's grandchild.
So my daughter was violated by my sister-in-law, Michelle, her grandson. So when we talk about her brother was also her other brother, violated another sister's boyfriend's sister. So it's a family of perpetrators. It's a family of them. And it happened to my daughter, like you said, at the hands of the grandchild. And again, my daughter kept a secret. She didn't know my story. And once she told me what happened to her, then I told her my story. And it was, of course, earth-shattering for me. It was, of course, debilitating for me because that's the one thing you never want to happen to your child. You want to protect your child from going through the same things that you go through. But, and you blame yourself because you have them in the same environment. But you never know, like this kid was 11, You never think an 11-year-old kid, but someone violated this child within that same family. You know, in that same family that someone violated this child.
Victims become perpetrators, and it's so
Exactly.
common for that to happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, you know, one question that I know a lot of people ask is, you know, about the Stockholm Syndrome. Why do victims, once they get out of it and they're survivors, why do they go back to the life? I had a conversation with someone this morning, so give us some background about that.
The first thing people ask you is, why didn't you get out? Why didn't you leave? That's the first thing people ask. You had all this opportunity. Well, it's the bondage is more mental, emotional, just like we spoke about how they spend time grooming you. That the grooming process is to get you to trust them. And it's usually kids who come from troubled background. My father was, you know, a madman. So he knew that. So they gain your trust. And so it becomes brainwashing for you. And Stockholm Syndrome is real. I remember when I met my husband and we talked about it and I told him my story. And he asked, that was the first question he asked, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you get out of it? And I said to him, I want you to take 3 days and we don't talk for 3 days. And I want you to go to the internet and I want you to research everything about sexual abuse and human trafficking. And after 3 days, he came back and he was like, he had a better understanding. And he apologized. There's no need to apologize because it's a normal question of someone who hasn't been involved. And you have to just understand, just like women who are in domestic violence relationships, we want to know why they don't leave, you know, because it's mental. And, you know, so the girls get involved with it and they can't get out. They can't get out. They're afraid to leave. That's the first thing. They really believe this person's going to kill them. I really believe that, you know, because I've been beat for years. You know, I've been beaten for years. And why not? Why wouldn't he kill me? You know? And then it's like they make you believe that no one else is in your corner but them. You know, I'm the one here. I'm the one who care about you. And with me, with my situation, I can speak to my situation. My family didn't show care. It wasn't no advocacy happening. It wasn't no one aggressively trying to convict him or trying to prosecute him. So what do you believe? Your family doesn't. You know, my father was a madman. So all of the things that they tell you, you know, they relate that to your life and you believe that that's the way it is.
They prey on your vulnerability and
Exactly.
they use that against you.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And also, you and I spoke about this morning that a lot of victims, survivors also go back because their direct needs are not met. Okay, so someone escapes trafficking, but they don't have a house, they don't have food, they don't have a job. So what do? On one hand, they're looking for these things and we're not providing it to them, while the perpetrator is out there saying, come back to me, I'll give you somewhere to live, I'll give you food, I'll give you clothes, and their immediate needs are met. So they go back into that life, not because they want to, but because of necessity that they need to survive. And that's the only way they can survive.
And one of the most important things, I thought about this after we talked about it. One of the most important things that they promise is what? Love.
Looking for love and affection.
I love you. I love you. Your family doesn't love you. Your mom doesn't love you. You know, your dad doesn't love you. I love you. And what have they shown? They show love, right? Because when they're good to us, they're good to us. You know, they're very good to us. Which
and guess what
we're
happened?
not getting that.
It starts out with them showing you love, buying you all the nice stuff, you know.
Definitely.
The grooming process is a
to
loving
you,
process.
Understanding, all of that. It's the grooming process. And so one of the things is the needs aren't met, you know. And then the other thing is we talk about the fitting in. Like I just spoke about that. Where am I going to go now? What am I going to do? I'm tarnished. You have shame, you have guilt, right? So who's going to accept me? Who's going to love me? You know, who's going to want me? So when we talk about, you and I talked about the recidivism rate. I know they use that a lot with prisoners, but it's the same with human traffickers. The rate is high because of all the things we talked about. You know, where do I go now? What do I do with myself now? How am I going to make a living? You know, where am I going to be accepted? I'm tarnished, I'm ruined, because that's what society tells us, right? Who's going to want, Nisi and I talk about that. Who's going to want a hoe, right? Who's going to want a prostitute? How are you going to be able to live a regular life, a normal life at this point? So you go back to the perpetrator, My thing is, we have to give these young women something to hold on to. We have to give them something to hold on to. And that's what, you and I talked about me moving towards my training program of giving them a skill and giving them hope and building their self-esteem and letting them know that, this does not have to be your end. And every day is going to be a battle. That's why I say that. Every day is a battle. It's going to, for the rest of your life, I'm 54 and I'm still battling every day, because when you touch a child in a really inappropriate way, you don't know what you do to that child for the rest of their life, So, I want young girls to understand that look at me, and people look at me, you and I've talked, this is my coming out, for years I've lived a lie, basically a lie. So people look at me and I tell them my story and they say, you've got to be kidding me. I don't believe that. There's no way. And I say, yes, there is a way. I'm the way. I'm to show you that, hey, you don't have to be a product of your past. You have to live with it. You have to live what you've been through and who you've become, but it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to define you for the rest of your life.
So November 2020 was Nadine's, let's say, coming out.
That was my rebirth.
her rebirth.
My rebirth.
And she says that because it was the first time she came on my platform, and that was the first time she openly spoke about what happened to her. And she felt so relieved that she wasn't living this lie anymore. She wasn't hiding her truth. And she was now able to use this truth to help others. I know one person that watched your video on Facebook, she's like, a nurse and a human trafficking survivor? How do you link the two?
Anything, you can do it. You can do it. It's a battle, but you can do it. And that's what I want to portray. When people look at me, people I've worked with, as I start to evolve and continue on this journey, a lot of people are going to be blown away by my story. Because, you're taught also in trafficking to put on a face, right? Because you have to perform all the time. I have a theater background. For years, I went into theater. And I do theater. And people couldn't believe how natural I was, how natural of an actress I was when I'll be on stage. And it's because I've been acting all my life, So you put this facade on. So, people will say, who I've told my story to, they're like, I cannot believe it. You're always so jovial, you're so this, you're so that. Well, because you have to be. You're taught, you're groomed. And who children are by the time they're 14 is who they will be. You just build upon those blocks. And that's why it's important to teach the children before they reach the age of 14. I said high puberty. So I was groomed from that time to always put on a face. You have to be happy, you have to smile. I can remember the first time I was trafficked and it didn't work out because the guy, I was so nervous and I was crying. And the guy said he couldn't touch me because, he knew that I was young, of course, and he didn't want any trouble. And I can remember my perpetrator was just livid. And of course, I got a beat down. And the next time you are taught how to act, how to be. And then they give you something to make you relax. And it, fix your face, smile, be relaxed, and you learn how to do it. So all my life, that's the way I've been. So now it's like, I've taken the mask off and it's who I am. And I am who I am. And either you accept me for who I am or not. And it's okay.
And Joy just made a wonderful comment. Thank you, Joy. She said, trauma doesn't determine who you are. You choose your story. That is so beautiful, Joy, because, we all go through different kind of trauma. For me, it's the death of my daughter. For Nadine, is trafficking. We all, for Marie, it was being violated sexually. So for every one of us, sometimes it's domestic violence. We all go through different trauma. Our stories are all different. So we're all survivors in different ways, but we have to
Exactly.
control that dialogue. You know, we cannot make that story define us. We have to choose the path that we want to take, hard as it is. And it's just
Right.
determining every day, am I going to swim or am I going to sink?
Right. We said something the other day. I don't know if anybody has seen the movie. If you have kids, Finding Nemo, and what is it? She keeps telling them, keep swimming, keep swimming.
Exactly.
And you know, when you talk about defining you, it's like you have to fight that. And that's why I said you have to fight that. Don't let it define who you are, because it will. And you know, you can't let the fact that people won't accept you. You know, for years I was afraid to tell my story. I was afraid because of the acceptance. And I'm just getting to the point where it doesn't matter. So when you talk about being free, the chains are really broken when you start to talk and not keep the secret. The secret is what's really smothering you, you know. But when you talk, it's like, I can't even explain November the 20th, how it was for me. It was just so freeing. And it just didn't matter. It didn't matter what people thought or how people felt about me. It just didn't matter anymore because I was free finally. You know, I was free finally.
And I love that story, Nadine, because that touched me so much, because my daughter died but gave you life. And I remember you kept saying, thank you, Mia, thank you, Mia, thank you, Mia. Like, you know, you've allowed me to live my truth. And I was crying the night. I was like, I really miss my daughter, you know, but thank you, Jesus, that her life was not for nothing. You know, through this organization, so many people can find healing. And thank you
And,
for
you know, Mia
allowing me
speaks
to.
through us. You know what I'm saying? She speaks through us. You know, Mia's voice speaks.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, so you got to know that you know, her spirit is there.
Absolutely. So I know it's almost 1 o'clock. I'm going to open the floor to any questions anyone have, and then in the end, I'll ask you, Nadine, how is life now? But before that, Joy, anyone, Denise, anyone, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? Nadine, you can unmute yourself and ask her.
And I'm transparent. No question's a bad question. No question's an appropriate question. I'm transparent. Anything anybody wants to know, please just ask your question.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
There you go.
Alrighty. So hi, thank you so much for your candidness, your
you.
honesty, and sharing your story. You just don't know how it just touches in so many ways. The question I have is for your mom. Like, how did she come to terms with what happened to you? And if she's still alive, how is your relationship now?
Okay, so my mom. My mom's name was Halloween. It was her birth name. So I call her Halloween. My mom was a special woman. Very mild-mannered, soft-spoken. She was a good person. But my mom had one fault, one thorn, and that was my brother Daniel. You know, that was her evil seed. And I don't know what happened with this kid that my mom wanted to protect him. So my story is very unique. My mom knew all about my abuse. She knew it was happening, all the years it was happening. She knew that he had taken me to Florida. But in her quest to protect my brother Daniel and his wife Michelle, she chose not to advocate for me. So people have found that difficult. Like, how did you deal with your mom? She would allow my brother Daniel to beat me, to make me behave. She would allow my brother Daniel to whip me with an extension cord. She would allow my brother Daniel to kick me in my vagina, punch me in my breast, slap me in my face. I remember one time he beat me so bad I couldn't dress out for gym because I wanted to F with an older man, and I wasn't gonna ruin his marriage because I want to be a fast ass woman and F an older man. So when I would come home and they knew where I was, he would beat me, and my mother allowed that. So how could I have a relationship with my mother? I have a lot of family members who are very upset with my mother. I went to therapy. I had a breakdown. I had a break. And I went to therapy. And my therapist said that I would pay you to stay away from your family. You don't know the stories I can tell you about my family. And I said to her, I wanted a relationship with my mom. So I went to my mom and I said, if you don't go to therapy with me, I cannot talk to you anymore. I cannot have a relationship with you. She didn't want to deal with the pain. Well, I deal with the pain every day. So she went to therapy with me. And that was our saving grace of our relationship. We became best friends. Of course, she was apologetic. She was remorseful, but she still loved that evil child, Daniel. It wouldn't confront him, you know. But she passed away in 2005. We were best friends. We had really kind of reconciled our relationship. Angry, yes, very angry at her still. Resentful, yes, at her still. But I came to realize through years of counseling, a degree in psychology, that she most probably was violated as a child also, you know, and she could just never say that, you know. And being a mother of a child who had been violated, it's painful when you're violated and now your child is being violated. And angry, yes, that I was a sacrificial lamb for one of her children, you know, but knowing psychologically what she may have been going through, I was able to forgive her. So.
Awesome. Thanks for
Thank
answering
you.
that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. My mom still hasn't acknowledged my sexual abuse, but you know, I forgave her because I had to heal in that way. So thank you for sharing it. So
Yeah.
I do understand some of what you
Yes.
went through.
Yes. Yes.
And it kind of answers Denise's question. Denise asks, how is life with your family? I know, Nadine, before we did the show in November 2020, you wanted to talk to some of your family members that you were going to speak your truth. How has that been since you told them?
Well, I don't talk to my brothers. One of my brothers passed away 2 years ago from COVID. When I disclosed to him what had happened, he told me he didn't want to hear my story. It was too painful for him. So I stopped talking to him. I stopped talking to my brother Kenneth because he talks to my brother Daniel. Only one of my brothers I have a relationship with, and that's my brother Anthony, because he acknowledged my pain. He apologized profusely because he knew about the abuse also. He got a pass because he was younger, you know, at the time. So I have a relationship with my nieces and nephews who I've raised. So that was very important that I let them know because they didn't know my story. And it's been awesome. I've gotten great support from them. My sister-in-law, Kertrell, who's really not my sister-in-law, he's my sister. You know, she's been very supportive with her kids. So it's been freeing for me. And it's also been defining for me. For years, I looked for validation from my brothers and my mom, and my dad had passed on. He also knew about my abuse. But once my mom and I was able to mend our relationship, it didn't matter about anyone else with my brothers. And I have sisters, half sisters. I disclosed to them also. No one wants to deal with the pain. No one wants to talk about it. As far as my siblings go, but my nieces and nephews have been very, very supportive. So that's been very important to me.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
My mom solidly denied it still, but
You can unmute yourself and ask. Oh, what did you say, Nadine?
We're chatting in the chat.
Oh,
okay.
I think I
Did
have
you want to go back to the chat and pull any questions from there? Anybody want to ask anything from that?
I have another question.
Go ahead, Joy.
How are you and your daughter's relationship? Because you didn't share your story initially, and then unfortunately she experienced similar with the same connection to the perpetrator. But how are you and your daughter, and how is she doing?
That's my mini me. We have a good relationship. Outside of adolescent stuff, mood swings or whatever, we have a good relationship. She deals with her pain differently. She's 18, so she really hasn't started to deal with it. She went to therapy. And I just leave the door open of communication with her. I'm very transparent with my kids, very transparent, more than most, because of what I've been through, because I've worked at HIV also, you know, I worked in HIV for years. So I'm very transparent. We talk about how the sexual stuff affects you through your life. So, you know, I try to leave the door open for her to talk. And sometimes we, you know, she'll come and she'll just blurt something out and we'll have a conversation about it. But I don't press her. You know, when she's ready, she'll seek her therapy and she'll find her voice. You know, she'll find her voice. Any other
And
questions?
also, Asha is an amazing child.
Yes.
She is. She's on my workshop a lot. And also, she speaks her truth so eloquently. Nadine and Asha did a video together, and
Yeah.
Asha talked about the fact that she knew something was wrong before her mom even said it to her. Remember, Nadine?
Yeah.
She's
she
like,
said
yeah,
that.
she said she
Yeah.
suspected something was wrong because her mom is always like, hold your head up, know that you're the best, be careful of boys, be careful of this. Oh, and also tell them about the story where Asha's friend was probably being groomed. The girl that you dropped off.
Yeah, she was in school with this young lady, and you know, when you talk about it, just like drug addicts can find each other, they know each other. Abusers know each other. That's how I know my mom had been abused. Behavior, you know, we know behavior. I always say that, you know, the drugs, your behavior doesn't lead you to the drugs. The drugs lead you to the behavior. So, so I knew this something was not right with this kid. You know, something just wasn't right with this kid. And we gave her a ride home one day after school. And long story short, she wanted us to drop her off a few apartment complexes down from where she was, buildings down from where her apartment was. And we said, no, we don't do that. We drop you off in front of your door. Where's your mom? And she was like, you know, my mom's not home. I'm going with my dad. Well, we'd like to see your dad. But it was always this ambiguity with her with dropping her off. And the third time we dropped her off, she had 3 cell phones with her. And my husband asked her, why do you have all these cell phones? And she said, you know, I'm running these niggas and I'm doing this. And I told Asha, I said, this kid, this particular time, she was begging to spend the night at my house. And I said, you know, we haven't met your parents. We don't do that. You know, my mom wouldn't mind. My mom wouldn't care. And so when she got the car to Asha, I said, this kid is grooming you. This kid is being trafficked some kind of way. And Asha, you know, her eyes open. She said, Ma, you know, these guys are starting to pick Shay up, because I told Asha I wasn't giving her a ride home anymore. She said, these guys are picking Shay up in BMWs and all these high-end cars. And I said, because Shay's working. You know, she's working. You just know. And but I told Asha, you know, she's grooming you. She's grooming you, and that's not the good company that you need to keep. And I just thank God that she adhered to what I said and listened. You know, she's an amazing kid. She's my right and my left hand. You know, she's very mature for her age, because I forced her to be mature. And because of what I've been through, I am not overbearingly overprotective, but I am very cautious with educating her about things that are happening. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I'm going to read some of the comments for you.
Okay.
Lolita said that she loves you. And she said, my mother admitted it and then suffered from dementia. So Lolita also experienced what you did. I'm going to also email the comments to you so you can read them later.
Okay.
Let's see. Joy said trauma doesn't overpower you. Trauma doesn't own our power. We do. We're not what happened to us. It's a part of our story.
Exactly.
Marie said that the perpetrators also make you think it's your fault when you do get mad and then they hit you. Exactly. So you feel as if you make them treat you bad. Exactly. It's a facade. And right. Marie and I have spoken before about wearing masks when these things happen. We've talked about our mental health too, and how it affects your mental health forever. It's a lifetime of healing. Whitney says these things happen especially because it is happening to more and more children nowadays. And it is, Whitney. And so that's why we have to educate our children. And it's an ongoing education at every
Yes.
stage. And this is why our workshops vary in ages, so we can have these different conversations.
Right.
Let's see what else. Marie, I'm just Nadine, I'm just gonna email you the comments so you can read them
I
later.
wanted to
But
piggyback off
just-
what Marie said, that, you know, like even today, like, don't raise your voice when you speak to me.
Mhm.
I can't stand for anyone to raise their voice. I don't like loud music, loud noises, you know. Certain things, if you even look like you're becoming aggressive, then I get very defensive, you know. So it's an ongoing process when we talk about that. And when we talk about educating our kids, you know, this is one of the workshops that I want to do. I work for, in New Orleans, I work for an agency called the Gender for Children. And we educated children about how to protect themselves from kidnapping and sexual abuse. And we have to be frank with our kids. We have to talk to our children. It's a penis. It's not a weenie. It's not a sausage. It's a vagina. It's not a garage. It's not a pocketbook. Because then it empowers our children to make them strong. You know, those things work for them. That's a part of their security, and that we're giving them to go out into the world. Because I was a court advocate, and if they're violated and they go to court and they say he put his car in my garage, the judge throws it out. But if the child says that he touched my vagina, then people are listening to what your child has to say, you know. And I tell the story very quickly about my son, who was in pre-K, and this kid touched him inappropriately. And he came home and he told me that, you know, the kid had touched his penis, trying to touch his penis to his pants. And I went to school the next day and I told them about it. And I said, you know, he says that this kid tried to touch his penis. And of course, they're looking at me because it's Christian school. They're looking at me like, did he really say that? And so they took him in the room and I said, you can interview him. And he said, he tried to touch my penis through my pants. And they were just marveled at the vocabulary that my kid had in describing what happened. And when they rolled the cameras back, exactly what he said happened. And it just so happened that this little boy was being violated by his older brother. And my kid felt bad because he felt like he had gotten this kid in trouble. But I had to explain to him, because you articulated things the way that you did, you saved this kid. You know, you saved this kid. So, you know, let's educate our children, frankly. I know we're scared to talk to our kids. You know, one of the things that Asha and I are going to start doing is we're going to open up coffee and good conversations for teenagers. And if the parents don't want to talk to them about sex and don't want to talk to them about what, then refer them to us and we'll talk very frankly to them about and educate them, because they have to be, you know, they have to be. Empowerment is paramount, you know.
Awesome. So Marie said, this is why I feel God changed my direction in my life and placed me in education.
All right.
Because you know what, we're able to help others because of the trauma that we've been through.
Oh my God, yes.
We're able to empathize, you know?
Yes.
And that makes
Yes.
a big difference.
People always ask me, you know, it just opened up. I promised God that if he got me out that situation, dead or alive, but alive, if he got me out that situation, that I would spend the rest of my life empowering other young women. And that's what I've done. And my friends always laugh. They say, you know, because I'll say, I'm 54 and I'm tired. And they'll say, but you didn't tell God when. You didn't say for the next 30 years, you said for your life. You know, so that gives me the motivation to keep going, because I want people to look at our stories, you guys, and say, you know what? I can keep breathing another day. I don't have to cut, because I tried to kill myself 3 times, guys. I cut my wrist twice and I took a bottle of pills once. I tried to kill myself 3 times. I no longer wanted to be on the planet because I didn't want to suffer the pain of the abuse. So if we as survivors can help other people so that they don't have to go through that, then that's our mission. That's our mission.
And Joy said that's why she changed from an accountant to being a social worker, You know, like you when Marie, she's answered that call.
Right, right. Because it ain't for the money, right, Joy?
And Marie said she's, you know, slowly coming out of her trauma.
The
But this
money
is
for me is good. I don't know about no other social
No,
worker,
but it
but
ain't
the
for the
money
money for me.
is good.
My friends always say, won't you go get a real nursing job? I just want to say shout out to Isha. I love you, Isha. This is my neighbor.
I
She's
love you, baby.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry with Isha because Isha has been
I love
so
you.
supportive. Isha,
I love you, Nadine.
Isha is the one who encouraged Nadine to speak her truth. And actually,
brought me to
Isha,
tomorrow. I wasn't gonna cry, right? I was good. I wasn't
it's
crying.
okay. So Isha
It brought me
invited
to
Nadine on one of my shows, I think in like September, October of 2020.
Yes.
Nadine was a guest on one of my shows. And then after hearing Nisi Hamilton, Dr. Nisi Hamilton, she's a survivor and a friend of mine. She lives in Texas. After hearing her speak, Nadine reached out to me and told me that she, you know, was impressed by what we talked about. And something I said, I don't know what I said, but it struck her and made her
Right.
accountable and
Right.
remember her promise to God.
Well, what you said was that you know, you can't hold it. You have to let it go. It was something of that nature. You can't hold it and you have to let it go. So, you know, it was like, I speak that all the time when I work in HIV. The people who are HIV infected, you know, I try to encourage them. If people don't see the face of HIV that looks like them, then they don't think it exists. Well, she said something to that point and it hit me in my face. Like
And I remember you saying that's why people have to be careful what they say, because you don't know how people are going to take your word.
Into people's lives. So
God, it was something positive.
I owe all of this to Isha. That's another angel, because you know, she just said she knew my story and she just said, why don't you tune into this workshop? So all of this is Isha's fault, you guys, really. It's all Isha's
I love you, Nadine. Oh. I'm so happy that you're able to speak your truth, and the devil is a liar. All the chains have been broken. It's a work in progress, but now we get to stamp on the devil because now he has no more power or control over you.
No more power.
All that power has been taken away.
And when we keep the secret, we empower. I empower, you know, I've just been able to say my perpetrator's name in the last few years. His name is Leroy, you know, so I've been able to deactivate him. My brother Daniel, his wife Michelle, my brother Kenneth, you know, so it's like I've taken back my power. And when I tell people, it's so important that you do that. And for years, I knew it through mental health counseling. You preach to people about it, but it wasn't until I truly did it that I understood how powerful it really was. It really was. So you guys know that, right? Yes. Call them by name, like like when we pray for people, we say, you know, I called your name. Well, you got to call them by name and say it, you know, because that person can be, you know, violating someone else, you know, and they most likely are. They don't stop. I could just tell you the story about how it didn't stop after me, you know, so call their name. But Isha, I love you. Thank you.
So the final thing before we leave, well, the second to final thing, Nadine, I want you to talk to us for a minute about soul ties. Soul ties. I know you and your husband talked about that with me.
Yeah, he just had to go run an errand too. I told him to sit talk about soul ties. Soul ties is real, guys. Soul ties is your soul is tied to people, and particularly sexual experiences. So you wonder, like, you know, I talk very candidly about. So I tell people, you know, I try to tone it down a little bit, but like, you know, like Isha know me, I just say what I have to say. But we wonder why the sexual stuff is the way it is. You have to pray the soul ties off of you. So whenever you are bonded to someone sexually, even emotionally, you have emotional soul ties. You have to pray those soul ties off, and you have to call it by name, call the person by name when you pray. You know, God, I pray for the soul tie to be broken with Leroy. I no longer want this soul tie. I don't speak power into this soul tie. And it breaks the chain of the soul tie with you. So, but long as you don't do that, you have a soul tie to that person. So like, you know, if you're with someone else and they touch you a certain way, they move a certain way, the soul tie rears its head. So you have to be able to pray the soul tie off you so you can be free. It's another bondage that you have for that person. And that's whenever you become connected to them, either spiritually, emotionally, or sexually.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for opening with us and being so transparent to us and sharing your truth.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys for listening.
Nadine is also going to be doing our youth work or youth summit once a month for the rest of the year. So you can, she's committed to it because I want youth to be able to speak to someone who's experienced this. I've never experienced being trafficked. Right. So she can give them honest answers to their questions and also help her to become more open about talking about what has happened to her. Right, right. So thanks, Nadine, for committing to that. And I'm open to speak to anyone. So if you guys want me to speak to a group or whatever, this is my promise. just reach out to me. You guys can go on our website and read more about, listen to the video, the last video about Nadine's stories on our website on the blog if you want to see it or listen to it. You can go there. So again, thank everyone. Affect the memory. Yeah. And she's going to be doing a website of her own soon. So I'll put the link on my website when she does that. So again, thank you all for joining. I want to thank all our sponsors. Our annual sponsor is the Whistler Law Firm. I want to thank them for continuously sponsoring us. I want to thank everyone here who's always supporting us. Nadine, Joy. This is my first time seeing Joy in person. I don't even know how Joy even know about my workshops, but she's been emailing me since last year and she's been sending me her little cash app. Joy. So thank you, Joy. Thanks, everyone. The link to our email address is in the chat. If you'd like to support us by donating or by volunteering, just go ahead and send me a message online or you can text me. So thank you all for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day and we'll see you next month if you're available to come on another workshop. And we promise that this year is going to be amazing. I'm going to have different adults once per month speak for our adult workshop. And we'll have someone speak at the youth workshop that understands, in addition to me giving my PowerPoint. So we look forward to having an exciting year and we look forward to you continue being a part of what we do and making MJ's Credit Foundation a success. Thank you, guys. Peace and blessings. Have a good day, everyone. Bye. Bye.